After World War One, America was in the midst of the Great Depression. Consumer demand was low, and many struggling manufacturers were scrambling to find new products and new innovative designs to reignite consumer demand. One of these innovations was the assembly line in car factories, cutting the user production time of 12 hours per vehicle to an hour and 33 minutes per car. The innovation of the assembly line was made known by Henry Ford. Introducing it in Detroit in 1913, the car industry saw a rapid increase in business. Companies such as General Motors took notice of this and started to implement these assembly lines in their factories. Cadillac was one of the fastest growing brands under GM, being very popular with the growing film scene in Hollywood. This popularity came from the desire for classy, extravagant, and unique designs. This is where Harley J. Earl comes in. Harley was the first professional designer to be hired by GM and was also the first designer in any American car company. Harley was an industry leader with both design techniques as well as styling. Some of Harley's well-known designs are iconic tail fins on many Cadillacs throughout the 1950s, as well as America's most iconic sports car, the Corvette. Harley Earl was born in 1893 on November the 22nd in Hollywood, California. A year before the first motion picture was aired and 2 years before Henry Ford's first automobile, the Model A. Harley's father, Jacob Earl, was the founder of Earl Automotive Works. Jacob began building carriages for the wealthy and rich, but in the early 20th century, Jacob Earl quickly saw the potential in cars and custom bodyworks, and hastily changed the direction of his business. Due to this, Harley was surrounded by the automotive world. He attended and studied at Stanford University, eventually joining his father at Earl Automotive Works. By 1916, Earl Automotive Works was quickly becoming the largest auto plant on the West Coast, employing between 300 and 500 people. The location of Earl Automotive Works and the ever-growing Don Lee Cadillac dealership were both on South Main and Piccadilly Street in downtown Los Angeles. And with Los Angeles' love affair with the automobile starting to grow in this area, it was dubbed Auto Row. Earl Automotive Works specialized in custom coach building of vehicles for the wealthy elites of Hollywood. Harley's work started becoming very sought after, with his custom cars going for record-breaking prices. This recognition and popularity surrounding his work did not go unnoticed. Design was not a large factor of car production, but as it became more available to consumers, many consumers sought out ways of setting themselves apart from the rest, turning to coach builders and igniting the custom car industry. As a consumer, if you wanted a custom car, you would first purchase a chassis from the car brands such as Cadillac, Buick, or Chevrolet, then taking it to a custom coach builder. Earl Automotive Works was the largest custom coach builder in the West Coast. Don Lee, the owner of an exclusive Cadillac dealership in Hollywood, recognized his customers' demand for custom cars was only increasing. Don Lee purchased Earl Automotive Works in 1919 with 25-year-old Harley working as the lead designer and director of the custom body shop, together producing over 1,000 cars for Hollywood's elites over the next 5 years. During a visit to Don Lee's dealership, Lawrence P. Fisher, the general manager of Cadillac division, noticed Harley's work. As a fellow coach builder, he recognized Harley's talent and envisioned a role for him at GM. Cadillac was getting ready to roll out a more affordable model called the LaSalle, where Harley was brought on as the design consultant. With the success of the LaSalle, which was released in 1927, the head of GM, Alfred P. Sloan, created the Arts and Color section of GM in 1928, with Harley employed as the head designer, which was an industry first. An automotive journalist once wrote, "Earl started streamlining before the word was invented. Streamlining gave the impression of speed, efficiency, and higher technology. Before cars were designed with style in mind, engineers designed the automobiles for function over form, with many components visible. Headlights, spare tires, fenders, grills, and the trunk all felt separate from the car. Harley envisioned the car as a cohesive unit and strived to design sleek vehicles, changing the automotive industry for good. Harley's vision of the car transformed the design from modernism, where the focus was on the function, to Art Deco, where an emphasis was placed on the form of the car, giving the impression of speed, luxury, and quality. An example of this would be the Buick Y-Job, which was the very first concept car created by Earl in 1938, and the very first car to show off Harley's vision of Art Deco styling. In order to create his new vision, Harley introduced the industry to clay modeling, a practice which he had been doing since he was a young boy. Now he was creating the models to scale. The design process of clay modeling made it easy for designers to visualize shapes and forms that were very difficult and time-consuming to create in steel. Clay allowed for the design process to be simplified and sped up. Clay modeling allowed for designers to make cars sleeker, smoother, longer, lower, and wider. Today, clay modeling is still used throughout the industry, with a supposed 95% of the world's cars and trucks starting their lives as clay models. Harley was the pioneer of the concept car, or what he called the dream car, his first being the Buick Y-Job, which was created in 1938. The Art Deco styling of the Y-Job was unlike anything else on the market. The design of the car was timeless. A reporter seeing it 11 years later, in 1949, thought it was the new model for that year. These concept cars allow for manufacturers to test the public's reaction to new styles and engineering ideas. These dream cars were shown off at car shows such as Motorama, established in 1953, to show off post-war design. These cars were used as marketing devices to boost the general interest in the automotive industry and exponentially increase automotive sales. One of Harley's most popular concepts, which was dubbed the most influential of all time, was the Buick LeSabre. Debuted in 1951, the car was a beacon of post-war design. The LeSabre came with heated seats 30 years before they made any appearance in European cars. The LeSabre also was fitted with a roof which automatically came up as soon as it started to rain, 40 years before Mercedes introduced their one-touch top. Harley J. Earl's most recognizable achievement were the tail fins. First appearing on the 1948 Cadillac, they were not popular additions to begin with, but instead of giving up on his design, Harley decided to go bigger and exaggerate these features even more. As a result, they boomed to popularity and were one of the most defining cultural movements of the 1950s. In no time, every car company in Detroit followed suit and scrambled to copy Harley's design. The cultural infatuation with aircraft throughout this post-war era is what Harley drew upon when creating this design. The tail fins gave the impression of speed, but were also symbolic of status at these times. The infatuation with these attributes did not last long. Tail fins drew upon fighter jet styling, giving them a subtle reminder of war, and with the conservative 50s coming to an end, the infatuation with these defining styling attributes did too. The rebellious hippie movement of the 60s came into full swing, and so did the taste of younger generations, and unfortunately tail fins started to disappear off cars. Though they may have disappeared quickly, the tail fins are a defining design style in the 1950s, and will forever be one of the most recognizable design features ever to be placed on American automobiles. The Cadillac Coupe de Ville, and more specifically the 1959 model, was one of the most iconic cars in the 1950s. The Coupe de Ville was best known for its extravagantly large tail fins with dual bullet tail lights, excessive amounts of chrome, and its enormous size. When compared arguably to one of the most influential cars of the 21st century, the Tesla Model S, these two cars share minimal similarities in the way of influence and technology, but both share the same iconic status within the pop culture in their respective eras. The Tesla Model S was the car that brought electric technology to the forefront of consumer minds, whereas the DeVille was a combination of 1950s design and was sent off into a new decade. The obvious difference in the way these two cars get their power. The DeVille was powered by a 390 cubic inch V8 with a 4-speed hydromatic automatic producing 190 brake horsepower or 142 kilowatts. The Tesla Model S is powered by a front and rear electric motors with a combined power of 615 kilowatts, equivalent to 825 brake horsepower, with a 1-speed fixed gearbox. For styling, both cars are similar in the sense that they look to the future. The DeVille with its sleek and low shape, and the Tesla's deletion of typical elements found on combustion-powered cars, such as a front grille, distinguish it as a car of the future. The most obvious design styling is the Coupe de Ville design is more consistent with Art Deco, whereas the Tesla Model S would be more in line with the modernism, as it is less extravagant with body styling and interior styling. Over the course of his life and career, Harley J. Earl influenced the design of more than 50 million cars. He always looked forward and never dwelled on his achievements and always strived to improve. Harley J. Earl changed the modernism styling of American automobiles to a styling more associated with Art Deco. His envisionment of sleek, cohesive vehicles changed the American automotive industry for good. His clay modeling techniques sped up the design process and allowed for designers to experiment more with the form of vehicles. Concept cars or dream cars showed off what he envisioned the future of automobiles would be like. He played into the American culture and infatuation with air travel and space. Overall, Harley J. Earl was a designer who utilized modernism design concepts such as efficiency and function to create automobiles which set a standard across the American automotive industry, both in styling and technology.